content is brought to you by iTrust Capital, which is a great platform that allows you to easily invest in crypto without worrying about taxes or fees. iTrust Capital allows you to invest in crypto through an individual retirement account or IRA. IRAs are tax-sheltered accounts, which means all of your crypto is tax-free and can even grow tax-free over time. The process of signing up with iTrust Capital is very easy. They have a mobile app. They have 25 plus cryptocurrencies. They have full support, a dedicated team ready to help you. And it is free. And once again, 100% free to sign up with iTrust Capital. There are no hidden fees and there's no monthly subscription or membership. They also have great security. They utilize Coinbase custody for all their custodial services. So you don't have to worry. It is institutional grade crypto custody that they are using. This is a great platform. Once again, it is free to sign up. So visit the link in the description and go check it out. If you sign up with my link, you get a $100 funding bonus. So once again, check the link in the description. Welcome back to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. With me today is attorney John Deaton, and we're going to discuss the latest updates with the Ripple SEC lawsuit. John, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thanks, Tony. Always a pleasure to be here, my friend.
So, John, pretty big developments in the past week. We had quite a few big announcements and details released. Let's start with Empower Oversight and the details that they were able to get out of their FOIA request, which was Bill Hinman's or emails from the SEC Ethics division towards Bill Hinman about his respective meetings with Simpson Thacher. Can you tell us about that and the implications?
Yeah, well, first of all, we got to give a great shout out to Jason Foster, who's running Empower and Empower Oversight. You know, a lot of people don't realize, or some of the people that are not, into this case as much as XRP holders, what Empower Oversight's doing, I didn't even know they were doing. Like, they're doing their thing, Deaton's doing his thing for XRP holders, and it just goes to show you, this whole concept of decentralized justice and how it all sort of comes together. But they recognized these conflicts, right? And so on their own, they saw what was happening and they started sending FOIA requests. And I think people need to realize that, let's not forget, the SEC denied having any responsive documents. So you send a FOIA request that says, we want to know if you have any issues, ethics opinions, emails related to these conflicts and blah, blah, blah. And about, long story short, they tell Jason Foster at Empower, we don't have any documents. There's none responsive, right? Jason knows something's up. This doesn't make sense. So what's he have to do? He has to file suit in federal court. Now, all of a sudden, because they know they're in formal litigation and rules of procedure apply and things like sanctions can apply and all those things. And all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, we have found some documents, and they send over 1,000 emails. And the first batch they gave was emails just between Bill Hinman and any person that has a Simpson Thacher email address, right? And a lot of them are, of course, where Bill Hinman sends an email that says, hey, I'm going to the SEC. Today is my last day at Simpson Thacher, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them are congratulations, all those things. But then there are others. And in that first batch, that's all they gave. Now, understand, there's been FOIA requests for emails between Bill Hinman and Joe Lubin and Consensus and, other entities, and we haven't gotten those yet. And so the first batch, we think, wow, this is pretty bad, because we see that they're saying to him in those first batch of emails, you shouldn't go to dinner. Or he's saying to that Bonnie partner of his the ethics office doesn't want me to go to dinner. Simpson Thatcher's going to be there, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we were making a big deal. I was on your show, I think, and we talked about those emails. But then lo and behold, the second batch of emails are from the ethics office itself, where they're flat out saying to Bill Hinman, listen, your retirement really isn't a retirement. You have an ongoing financial interest in the profits of your law firm. That means is what, Tony? He's a partner. Yep. I'm working at the SEC, right? Simpson Thatcher's a major player in securities litigation. And while I'm working at the SEC in this industry, I'm a profit-sharing partner with Simpson Thatcher, which means the more clients they get, the more revenue they make, which means the more profits they get. If their clients are successful, they're successful. And we know they're a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. And so we learned that there were emails, and a couple of them got terse between the ethics office and Bill Hinman, where they're saying, listen, you're in jeopardy of violating a criminal statute, right? There are laws, there are criminal conflicts of interest laws that are at play here. You are a profit sharing partner. You can't do this. You can't meet with them. And we know he blatantly ignored them. So, you know, that's massive. And I know you've been someone who has supported what we've been doing, you know, with your programs and your tweets and all of that. These, Tony, are not typical claims of the revolving door, right? Where you go work for a government agency and then you go work for, you get this big, nice, big, high-paying job in the industry that you were just regulating, right? That kind of looks, well, that's Wall Street insiders. That's the revolving door. That's bad enough. This is massive conflicts of interest where they're telling you you're not even allowed to talk to your partners. You're not allowed to meet with your partners. You're not allowed to go to dinner with your partners. You're not allowed to email your partners at Simpson Thatcher. And he basically gives the ethics office this. Sorry, but that's what he said to them, right? Because he went ahead and ignored it and met with this Bonnie individual. He met with Ling Chen, who was working with Alibaba and Alipay and all of that from the China office. I mean, it just, this guy just didn't care, man. He just didn't care about the ethics.
So, John, the question is posed then, how does that make Jay Clayton, who is at the helm of the ship, as well as the rest of the SEC, look when this guy is just saying, I don't care, I'm just going to do it, and there's no repercussions? In fact, his respective Ethereum speech was endorsed by Jay Clayton and other folks. And it goes back to, how can an institution like this, which is supposed to have some integrity, act like this? Is it rotten at its core? Is it time to clean the house? What is going on here? Well,
there's no doubt. I'm confident that it's gotten to the point now, and you got to understand, there's more that's going to come out, Tony, right? You know, a few months from now, maybe I'll be back. We'll be talking about the third batch or the fourth batch or the fifth batch of stuff that came out. But Jay Clayton is complicit in this, and he's complicit in these emails, because in the emails that Empower was successful in getting, Hinman says, because they go to Hinman, they say, listen, your financial package that you have with your law firm, you're a profit sharing partner, dude. Like, this is a problem, right? This is a serious problem. And they're like, well, can they change the partnership agreement? And Bill Hinman says, oh, you would require, you know, all of the retired partners and 75% of the current partners to all change the partnership agreement and this or that. And that's so cumbersome. Hey, I have enclosed a proposal, which is a way to skirt the ethics office, by the way. It's a workaround. and Jay has blessed it. So he's basically saying the chairman has agreed that I can continue and you guys need to lay off. So Jay Clayton is very complicit in this. Listen, you're the chairman, and what happens under your watch happens under your watch. You know, I got to tell you, I'm very, very interested, and you'd be the perfect person to ask her. Is I want to see what Hester's reaction, right? Because I'll be so disappointed if Commissioner Peirce, if she goes down the road of, well, Bill Hinman's an ethical guy and he's a great guy and he's this and he's that and I have faith in him. I mean, she could say all those things as long as but I agree that there should be inquiries. There should be an investigation because the integrity, the words you use, Tony, the integrity of the SEC is at stake here. And it's in its own best interest to do a review, do an investigation. And at the end of the investigation, if they come back and say, we didn't find an actual criminal violation by Bill Hinman or Jay Clayton or anyone else, fine. I guarantee you they'll come back with some serious recommendations, though, of how to avoid this in the future. And so at some point, Hester's going to be asked what she thinks of all this. And I'm just hoping that it's not that standard, because how many people said Bernie Madoff's a great guy? Yeah. Right. I mean, it's like, the next door neighbor who's a serial killer. Oh, he's a great guy. Right. You don't know. And so I just hope that people in the commission, right, say, hey, we need to clean house. We need to gain the trust of the public again. And what's the harm? Can anyone really articulate a reason that there shouldn't be an investigation? I mean, when the ethics office is saying there's a criminal statute at play here, and people can go on my Twitter. I sent it out today, which is like, it's this little package that was put together for people who go into government, where they get basically schooled on making sure that they don't violate the criminal statutes, 18 USC 208, 18 USC 209. I mean, just to give you an example, Tony, I pulled it because I knew we were going to talk about it. And 18 USC 209 says that one of the prohibitions is that you can't have continued participation in a former employer's bona fide employee welfare or benefit plan, such as a pension, retirement, group life, health, or accident insurance, profit sharing. Like, you're not allowed to do it, right? And so that's why they were citing him with saying there's this criminal statute at play.
The other person I'm thinking of too that just departed the SEC, and that is Elad Roisman. I don't know how much he knows, but I'm sure he could be a whistleblower and assist in some of these things. But since he's departed, we haven't heard anything from him at all. So
yeah, it's good. I'm very curious to see where Elad, shows up. It wouldn't surprise me if he's in, the crypto world. It would make sense. But we'll see. I mean, the conventional wisdom or the thought from what Fox Business investigated, they came back and said that they learned it was a 3-2 vote, right? And so I know at some point people thought maybe it was a 4-1 vote and maybe Elad voted for the case. But if you believe in the SEC, Tony, if you were a commissioner and you're someone like Joseph Grunfest and you believe in the integrity, then there's no reason for you to not support an investigation. Joe Grunfest could say, listen, I'm not going to question anyone's integrity or any of that, but Sure, there's no harm in investigating. Let's get to the truth. I think that we're going to find out more. I think that as bad as it already looks, it's worse. Remember, you know what I mean? We were all called conspiracy theorists, and now every independent journalist that looks at this says there's meat on the bones here. Every person that looks at this comes back and says, yeah, this looks bad. You know what I mean? And so there's just no reason not to.
I have a question for you, and maybe it's a bit a non-educated question because I don't know how this works, but can Ripple and LBRY use this respective information to their advantage in their cases respectively? I don't know if that's possible or it's totally
it's it's one of these things that's it's a fine, you got to like thread the needle, right? Really carefully, because the SEC in its arguments have already said, because Ripple's lawyers, they've alluded to an improper motive, right? They haven't come out and raised these conflicts of issues or any of that in their defense, but they've alluded to the Jay Clayton filing the lawsuit as he's walking out the door, and there could be an improper reason. And the SEC's response to that is the reason the lawsuit was brought is irrelevant to whether or not XRP is a security. And as offensive as that is to us to hear, there is some truth to it legally, right? Which is the issue before the court is, one, was XRP ever a security? And two, whether it was or wasn't in the past, is it a security today? That's the whole issue before the court. And so I think that I won't be surprised to see some more alluding to it so that the judge sees that sort of plays into the role. I plan on figuring out a way, right, to raise it in the amicus brief, because there's no explanation. I've always said this. I've said it from the very first day when I filed the writ of mandamus 9 days after this case was filed, Tony. I said, this makes no sense, man. The alleging that the token that we purchase off Coinbase in the secondary market, that's an investment contract with Ripple, and that for 8 years there's been this open unregistered securities offering that goes on for 8 years, yet Jed McCaleb isn't sued, and there's no cease and desist, and Ripple's allowed to sell it. There's got to be another explanation for why they're alleging the token itself. Even in Bill Hinman's speech, he says the token itself is never a security. Yep. He says it in the speech that gives ETH a free pass. Why are they alleging this? And so in a way of explaining to the court how ridiculous this is, it's almost like, here, judge, here's what's going on behind the scenes. So, you can't make it the focus of the case, because the focus is XRP is not a security. But if you can bring it in the context and background of that explains why we're here and why the SEC is taking these certain positions, that you can do it. But the court isn't going to litigate Bill Hinman's conflicts, right? Judge Torres is not going to have a hearing or an oral argument on conflict. If she allows me to give an oral argument for summary judgment motions and things of that nature for the amicus brief, and I just start going off on ETHgate, she'll shut me down. Right. I'm just saying, she'll say, okay, that's got nothing to do with the status of the token itself, right? And so, so the answer is the justice that people want about the conflicts and the conflicts of interest and all of that, we have to get the congressional oversight. We've got to get the Tom Emmers of the world who are on the banking committee, the Warren Davidsons of the world, the Senator Toomey's, Jack Reed. These are people in the Senate who are on the banking committee. We've got to get them to use their oversight into the SEC to get an investigation ordered. An investigator with subpoena power, man. Then you get the private emails. You don't just get the government emails, right? If Bill Hinman has a Gmail account, right? If he has Signal, right, on his phone or whatever other device application of communication, then you can get all that. And, you know, what was shared. You know, a lot of XRP holders are saying, I see on Twitter, oh, I bet that Joe Lubin is in one of those emails, right? Of the 68 emails. He can't be, because then it wouldn't be privileged at all. They could have never even made the argument, right, that it's privileged. It can only be privileged if it's only SEC people. But that doesn't mean he wasn't sent it from a Gmail account or you know, AOL account or any other account that's out there as far as a private email. It could even be a Simpson Thatcher. Yeah. You know, maybe he kept a Simpson Thatcher email. Who knows? But that's what we need.
Now, there was a big update yesterday around, I believe it was Judge Torres, if I'm not mistaken, pushback on the double standard of the SEC in how they flip-flopped on their position on Bill Hinman's speech, whether it was his personal opinion or the agency's opinion. Tell us about, you know, what you think about this and the judge's comments. Yeah,
it's actually Judge Netburn, not Judge Torres, and it's her the motion to reconsider. It's I love it. Okay, there's one section I know that a couple people I know, Jeremy was a little concerned with, and I don't blame him. It was a bone that she threw to the SEC that they can still redact certain things, but ultimately she smacked down the SEC, and she did it in, she wrote this 11-page opinion basically stating that the Hinman emails and the drafts to the Hinman speech and all the edits and the commentary in the emails about the speech all are discoverable and must be turned over. And she used terminology where she said, just because, you know, you went on a limb and said that this speech was his personal opinion. The man signed an affidavit under oath that it was his personal opinion. He did a deposition under oath that said it was his personal opinion. And just because you didn't like my ruling, I'm not letting you change course. And you don't get to reverse yourself and argue new stuff just because you didn't like the result. And she did it in a very professional, tactful way where she sort of put the SEC in their place with their inconsistency, right? But it's a great decision, and we learned a couple things. You know, I have it in front of me, and for example, I had tweeted out that there were 52 drafts to that email. Nope. Here's the direct quote by the judge on page 5 of the order. As evidenced by the 68 drafts and associated commentary in the SEC's privilege logs. There were 68 drafts, not 52, man. So think about that. And so what she went on to say is basically that anything in those emails and the edits have to be turned over to Ripple. And it was just great. She used the SEC seeks now to minimize the fact that it is publicly disclaimed responsibility for the speech. She didn't allow that to happen. You know what I mean? And then she also brought up the fact that Hinman, she took issue with the fact that Hinman declared this and confirmed it under oath that it was his personal views. And so it's great. Her opinion, I think, is bulletproof, Tony, because there's a rule when you file a motion to reconsider. So let's back up. The SEC wanted to protect these email and documents, and they said that it's his personal opinion, Judge, it's his personal opinion. And she accepted that and said, well, because it's his personal opinion, you have to turn over all that stuff. Mm. They then said, oh, shoot. Well, Judge, we're filing a motion to reconsider it. We want you to change your mind because here's some more stuff. Here's some more documents that show that there were a lot of other employees of the SEC giving advice and input to Bill Hinman. So it really wasn't his personal opinion. It wasn't the SEC's guidance, but it was the Division of Corporation and Finance. It's that division's opinion. And so they're trying to thread that needle that way, right? And so she said, and she made this decision. Now there's a rule, 6.3, that says you aren't allowed in a motion for reconsideration to make new arguments. So understand this. Everybody's upset at how long it took for her to write this opinion. People were blasting the court and the judges, oh, this or that, and saying some negative things and making negative inferences. She could have said the day after they filed the motion for reconsideration, pursuant to Rule 6.3, you can't get a second bite of the apple, denied. Instead, she actually goes out of her way in this opinion, cites that rule, Tony, and says, although I could do that, because the deliberative process privilege is so important, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually let the SEC make their arguments, and I'm going to consider those arguments. And she did. And then she rejected those arguments. What that means is that on appeal, they can't argue, oh, the DPP is so important, appellate court, and you have to, this judge didn't understand that, and her ruling was rushed, and we need the Second Circuit, or Judge Netburn, you need to step in and protect this privilege, or you jeopardize, SEC and agents, federal agencies in the country are at stake, and no one will come work for us, blah, 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 right? All this. She negates that by listening to it, considering it, and then rejecting it. So now on appeal, the appellate court would be like, no, she went out of her way and acknowledged the importance of the doctrine, analyzed the doctrine, analyzed the case law, and made a sound, reasoned decision. And that is way more important than getting this decision 2 months ago and it being rushed and them possibly having an issue on appeal. The SEC reads this opinion, they're not winning an appeal. They can delay it. They can cause a few more months of delay, but the Second Circuit is not going to overturn Judge Netburn. Judge Torres is not going to overturn Judge Netburn. So when the SEC appeals this decision to Judge Torres in the next 2 weeks, Judge Torres, I'll be shocked. I'll come up here. I'll eat crow on your channel if I'm wrong, but I do not see her overturning this decision. This is done. And so the SEC knows that whether it's 2 months from now, 1 month from now, or 6 months from now, God forbid, they're going to have to ultimately turn over those documents. And once they turn over those documents, if it's if there's things in those documents that you and I think might be in there, then that's going to give Ripple the win. So do you give Ripple the win, right? Or do you start talking settlement? I mean, what do you do if you're Gary Gensler and you're a politician? Are you really willing to, well, sometimes you got to be willing to lose. Are you really willing to take a loss? Because once, let's say hypothetically that best case scenario, what's in those emails, Tony? What do you think? As far as XRP, let's say best case scenario, someone suggested XRP be given the free pass to, right? Let's just assume for a minute. That's the best case scenario. XRP was in it, right? And then it was taken out. All right. Least scenario. Someone writes in the emails, what about Ripple? What about XRP? Hey, you know, you can make an argument that the XRP ledger is more decentralized than Ethereum, you know, and then someone responds, no, Ripple has so many tokens, but you see that debate serves Ripple their victory, because if the SEC enforcement attorneys are arguing about whether or not, or debating whether or not XRP is a security, how can Brad Garlinghouse be guilty of recklessness, right? How could he be so reckless because it's so obvious that XRP is a security when your own people are in there debating, suggesting that you put it in or this or that? And so, you know, maybe it's in the middle of those two extremes that I gave. You know, is it possible that XRP is not mentioned at all? Sure, it's possible. You know, I'm speculating. I have to admit that. But they don't want these documents turned over, because they could have went to Ripple and agreed to seal these documents. Said, here's the documents, here's the emails, here you go. The public doesn't get to see it. We're both in agreement, because there's something in there that gives Ripple, in my opinion, the win. So what do you do if you're Ripple and you have the something really, really good? You get the documents eventually. Are you inclined to settle if you think you're going to get a complete victory from the court? You know, if you're in Ripple, what would you do if you're advising Ripple? Let's say that it says in there XRP should also be given a regulatory free pass. And so now in the summary judgment, you believe as Ripple's lawyers, the judge is going to give Ripple the victory, right? Are you inclined to settle when you could get that complete victory within a couple months? Or if the SEC comes to you and says, we can delay this another 6 months, and we're going to take it all the way to the Second Circuit, and you don't know what's in these documents, Ripple. They're not as good as you think they are, right? There's a few things for you, but it's nothing what Deaton and these other clowns out there are saying, right? It's not that good. And we're going to do that. Or we could talk a settlement and give our boss, Gary Gensler, a victory. And so they start talking, because once the documents are in Ripple's hands, Ripple has the leverage. Being able to delay the case, right, and the unknown, they have leverage. And so I got to believe that, you know, I went on record to say that I think a settlement occurs within 90 days of Torres' decision agreeing with Judge Netburn, right? And so if that comes down a month from now, then that's when that clock would tick. Now, I'm assuming that on a couple things. One, that those documents are very helpful to Ripple. And two, that Gary Gensler really doesn't want an adverse ruling that potentially puts him out of the crypto business.
Sure.
Right. So that's where we stand.
But on that note, we're seeing a very interesting dynamic playing out with President Biden's crypto executive order. When that got put out, Janet Yellen changed her tone, and also Gary Gensler, he seemed to change his tone as well, where now there's reports that he's been asking to work with other divisions and regulatory bodies and so forth. It seems that executive order kind of took some wind out of his sails a bit. Do you feel the same way? And are you noticing that same change of tone?
Yeah, I was very happy because I was fearful that that the Democrats were going to take the Elizabeth Warren approach, right? And that Gary Gensler, Elizabeth Warren be very anti-crypto, the Brad Shermans of the world, if you will. And I think that they saw the writing on the wall, and that, crypto holders are Republican, and they're Democrats, and they're independents, right? Yep. And we're passionate about this technology and this space. And I think that the Democrats and Biden and his people are sensing that and wanted to be more not so anti-crypto. And so I think that does play into it, that because Gary Gensler has all of a sudden announcing he wants to work with the CFTC. But I believe that even if this case settles in 90 days, I believe that Gary Gensler is going after the exchanges, and he's going after exchanges and say, okay, some of them are commodities, some of them are securities. He won't tell you which ones are which, but I think his heart is now mind set on the exchanges, and just simply saying that you're selling, if you sell 80 tokens, there's at least one security on there. That's his sort of approach, right? He thinks there's more than that, but there's at least one. And so, yeah, I think that he's grasping for as much of the land that he can grab. And so I think part of this has been, that's why he's focusing so much on what he calls the crypto platforms.
Mm. There is one item I forgot to ask you about Bill Hinman's speech. Aside from him signing the affidavit and saying, it's personal opinion and so forth, can Ripple or even LBRY use some of the video evidence of Jay Clayton and Commissioner Jackson and some of these folks who are publicly out there saying the speech Bill Hinman put together is the guidance we are using, and that's a great foundation, and yada yada? Can those folks, despite, once again, the affidavit and all these things that were signed, saying, hey, the chairman at the time and these commissioners at the time were saying this was the agency's stance?
That's a great question, Tony. And I'm glad you brought it up, because a lot of people are misunderstanding when the judge says that she accepts. In her first ruling, she said that the Hinman speech was his personal opinion and that is settled, right? She wrote that. And a lot of people get upset and they're thinking, well, that's ridiculous because people relied on it and all the evidence you're talking about. If she didn't decide that, we wouldn't get the emails, right? We wanted her to decide that. All she's doing is saying, okay, you're saying it was a personal opinion. Fine. Privilege doesn't apply. That doesn't mean that the market didn't take it as guidance, right? It's a very legal, technical thing. She's saying that it's his personal opinion because he said it is, and because the SEC said it was. But the standard is objective, and the issue you look at is, what did the market think? how did the market view his speech? And so the market viewed his speech as exactly being market guidance. And so it is market guidance. And so when Jackson's on there saying we gave a speech, he gave a speech, and look to the speech, the fact that it's on the website still today can be viewed as a speech. The fact that in other publications, they cite to the speech, the Ripple can say that once the speech was written, and even though XRP wasn't declared similar to Bitcoin and ETH, you still can use it to say, you know, what I always go back to a video that I intend to use would be Nancy Wotas and Wendy Perkins. Wendy Perkins is a lawyer for Perkins Coie. They're the ones that got the ETH free pass. And Nancy Wotas is a lawyer who was in all those meetings with Perkins Coie and Hinman. And they're on stage. And Nancy Wotas actually says that she personally disagreed with Bill Hinman, that she didn't think Ethereum was sufficiently decentralized. She said it's fully functional, but it's not decentralized. And then she says, you know, but, and this is the whole point, she goes, but all you have to do if you're a project out there is if you can do a little bit better than Ethereum, then you're golden. And as soon as she said that, Wendy Moore from Perkins Coie goes, well, what about Ripple? Right. And so that's the whole, you know, that little exchange to me sums up the whole market guidance thing perfect. And so XRP holders, for example, can look and say, hey, I think I can make an argument that XRP is today more decentralized than Ethereum. And so if Ethereum is no longer a security, it doesn't matter what Ripple did in 2013. It doesn't matter. 2013's XRP is not 2020's XRP.
Right.
And so all of that is going to still be admissible, and all of that's still going to be relevant. The Hinman speech, despite it being called his personal opinion, was in fact market guidance to everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there was so many people using it that way. Even members of Congress were talking on TV about, you know, about
Warren Davidson went on CNBC and talked about it. And absolutely.
Well, John, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for what you're doing on behalf of XRP holders. And you know, certainly want to have you back on as things keep coming out, and hopefully Empower is able to get more documents and information from the SEC. But, you know, thank you again.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.